54% of conservative students say they will self-censor themselves on college campuses rather than fight with liberals. That's one way to skin a cat. Take away its mouse and let it howl in the mirror of its own prejudices. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we start with a new poll that finds the majority of conservative college kids expect that they will stay quiet this year to avoid upsetting the woke left. Conservative college kids, in case you haven't figured it out, they don't care whether you talk or not. They hate you. Your silence isn't going to spare you from this, right? You're going to sit there and be hated for the white person you are. So why not talk back to them, for God's sake?
Well, it takes effort, too.
Well,
anyway.
We all want to be popular.
Well, the College Fix is one who got the College Pulse to do this actual poll, and it was about 1,000 college students. They asked the question. And the specific question that they decided to ask was, with the current political climate, do you expect to self-censor yourself in class this semester so your professors or peers don't take offense at your ideas? And like you said, 54% said, yeah, I'm keep my lips shut. By contrast, only 15% of Democratic respondents claim that they're going to censor their own political beliefs due to social pressures, with 68% of them saying they would not censor. So straight up 68% said, I am just going to speak.
And why would they?
And 16%, they're unsure. They don't know. But most of the kids don't know about anything anyway. So yeah, that's a good point. Like, why would they when they know that they have the backing of pretty much everyone in the room and the one who's giving them their grade?
I've said this many times. There is absolutely nothing too liberal that you can't say it. There is nothing too progressive that you cannot say. And this is 25 years of grooming the public schools, grooming the universities. No consequence. We see it time and time again. When you get university professors who threaten to kill non-conservative people, when they threaten the president of the United States, they threaten to remove any white kid from their college classrooms simply because of for not conforming to Black Lives Matter, which we have a story coming up on this week. When all that happens, right, what's happened to those people? Nothing. No consequences for this. I mean, you can literally say anything. On the other side, you say something derogatory to a minority, and your career is in serious jeopardy. Microaggressions now are enough to get you canceled on a college campus. So you got a bunch of justifiably concerned conservative kids because one wrong word is going to get them canceled. The bias response team's on that. On the other hand, you got a bunch of clueless Democrat and progressive kids, 15% of whom are going to self-censor themselves. I'll bet you that 15% of Democrats are the traditional Democrats. They're kind of the traditional liberals, right? What percent of progressive kids are going to self-censor? I bet that's zero.
Well, they're in the 68% of we are not censoring.
Right.
And the 16%, the ones who are unsure, probably go along with a lot of those conservative kids who are going to be in the middle. They may be the kids who are going to, no matter what, just keep their mouth shut, do their assignments, and go home.
I'll tell you what, too. Those moderately liberal kids who are white, that's where that's coming from, right? Because you can be a white, moderate liberal, you can be a good Democrat, and that's not enough anymore on college campuses. How many times there are so few conservatives on campus, period, compared to what used to be known as traditional liberals. There's still a lot of those 50, 60-year-old traditional liberals on campus, but for them now, that's not good enough. The traditional liberalism went all in on the defense of free speech, went all in on the defense of our borders, our nationhood. They had patriotism. They loved their country. That stuff is now on the ash heap of history at college campuses.
And speaking of First Amendment free speech, Nicole Neely, who's the president of the First Amendment advocacy group Speech First, actually told College Fix that the liberal students are using various tactics to pressure their Republican peers into keeping their mouths shut. She said, beyond disciplinary proceedings, students also credibly fear their peers who are increasingly intolerant of differing viewpoints. Rather than leverage the tools of discussion, debate, and persuasion, words that we don't hear about anymore.
Words that are considered white supremacist. see.
Yes.
Now, think of those 3 words again. What are they?
Discussion, debate, and persuasion.
Those 3 things now on a college campus, if you're a conservative, are considered racially hateful.
Yep. Rather than leverage the tools of discussion, debate, and persuasion, students now seem inclined to strong arm their peers, but not physically because they're a bunch of weaklings most of the time, into compliance through canceling and doxing because that's what we do. That's all. Just get on there.
And do you see why,
dox you.
with universities being what they are, that some of us are not the least bit bothered by COVID? Why what COVID's doing to interrupt and disrupt the local, the school, the school. What did Eisenhower, the school industrial complex, we'll call it, right? He called it the military industrial complex. Here you have the big school industrial complex. The more you do to disrupt that, the more of a service you're doing to free speech. So we actually have Spencer Brown, who's a spokesman for the Young Americans Foundation, who claimed that the poll confirms, Captain Obvious, that college campuses are a hostile environment for conservative students. Quote, the resulting institutional reality is one where trigger warnings and speech codes take precedence over the Constitution, where students are taught to say ouch when they hear something they disagree with, and where, confusingly, both speech deemed unpopular and silence is deemed inappropriate as physical violence. And that's a great point Spencer brings up. Silence is complicity. So all these conservative kids who are not going to say anything are already guilty. It's not enough. You have to confess your sins. You have to renounce your whiteness. You have to abase yourself at the feet of the new African consciousness on college campuses in the name of inclusion. If you don't do that, you're guilty.
Silence is violence.
It is.
That's what they're
Silence is
saying.
violence.
Well, and when Spencer says that they're taught to say ouch, it's more like they're taught to say, my feelings are hurt.
Please, sir, may I have another?
Yeah, so students are taught to say ouch, and that's exactly what it is, these microaggressions that they've been taught. You say a specific word such as debate, discussion, persuasion, and they're triggered.
Diversity of opinion? No diversity of opinion, right? The white kids can't say what they think. They can't express a different understanding of reality. When they say silent, they're guilty unless they're parroting with deep conviction, right? What they're being told to from the Black Lives Matter crowd, which is to say the university administrators and professors. They're not towing that party line, right? They are complicit. This is the environment in which you're sending your kids to college.
Coming home to Wisconsin, we have, we would have had Vice President Mike Pence coming to the state. He was scheduled to deliver a commencement speech at the end of August to students at Wisconsin Lutheran College in Milwaukee. And that's about an hour away from Kenosha, if you don't know the state. But the college decided, no, we can't have the Vice President of the United States give a commencement speech because we got riots going on, and it'll hurt our feelings. They released a statement saying, after further review with careful consideration of the escalating events in Kenosha, the WLC Board of Regents and the college's administration have jointly decided to present a different speaker instead of the Vice President of the United States, Michael R. Pence, at the Saturday, August 29th, 2020 commencement. Okay, well, the Pence spokesman Devin O'Malley said, Vice President Pence understands and supports Wisconsin Lutheran College's decision to prioritize the safety and well-being of their students and wishes the students well as they celebrate the accomplishment of graduating from college as they embark on their next journey. So instead, they got Reverend Mark Jeske of St. Marcus Lutheran Church in Milwaukee.
Someone no one's ever heard of.
Vice President of the United States to come speak at your commencement, and we're going to turn it completely political. Completely.
And when you've got a church college, a Christian college, this, my friends, is why church in this country is on life support.
And Wisconsin Lutheran College, a lot of those students go down there to become teachers, to become pastors, to become something in education. Nursing students go there to be better citizens to our country, and instead we're going to turn it all political. It's just to give them well wishes as they go out into the world.
And other than being Donald Trump's vice president, what has Mike Pence done that's offended anybody?
It's not about Mike Pence. It's always Donald Trump.
They hate him as much or more than they hate Donald Trump.
Well, according to a letter from alumni and students, they said the simple invitation of having Pence in a swing state just months before an election, 2020 here, was both ignorant and deceptive.
So there you go.
The letter said, WLC has insisted that this event is not in any way meant to be viewed as a political event, as it cannot be and is not a political statement. They claim the decision was apolitical. However, the mere invitation of Vice President of an incredibly divisive and controversial ticket.
There you
so
go.
Donald
That's
Trump,
what this is.
Donald Trump,
Yeah.
to speak in a swing state months before an election is ignorant and deceptive. Speaking to young adults, they're adults. They just graduated. They're
young adults. Young adults mean they're adults in name only. Yinos.
Yinos. Months before an election is a political move and not one that WLC can decide is apolitical.
Right. But if you were to have somebody from the Democrat Party or the
Biden decides to
thousands of left-wing commencement speakers,
Kamala Ding Dong.
This is an opportunity. Yeah, exactly.
An opportunity to
This is an opportunity to hear from downtrodden voices.
True.
And this is a Christian school. The administration, the faculty, the students, and the board all saw the invitation of which in any other case would be a huge
honor,
coup, right? To have a vice president come in. Nope, because who they are and what they represent, it just goes to show you. I mean, Christianity is dying institutionally, and quite frankly, they deserve it. Let's get back to the situation, because whether we like to or not, it's going to happen. You're going to get there pretty quick to a situation where Christianity is on the outside looking in, where Christianity is being openly and deliberately persecuted, much more than it already is in this country. You think lopping the heads off Virgin Mary statues and scrawling graffiti on churches and synagogues, you think that's the end of this? That's the beginning. You're lucky, Christians, because you were made for suffering, not for power in this world. You're about to get exactly what you asked for.
And the best part, I think, of the entire letter that the alumni and students put out is towards the end, when they wanted to show empathy and grief for the class of 2020. Your commencement ceremony should not have been infected by toxic politics.
There you go.
You didn't ask for this, and you should not have needed to ask for this not to happen.
And the implication is that anything Mike Pence would say would be toxic, even though he is an evangelical Christian, right? If Mike Pence showed up and talked about Christ and the gospel, that would be toxic because of who he is.
Of course. Controversial political figures need to stay out of our academic celebrations. Just
right.
Rolodex, please.
Yes,
every
exactly.
Politician.
Hey, I'd take that.
President,
I would take it. Let's
ladies.
ban all politicians from commencement speech. That means 99% of Democrat speakers would be canceled. I'm on board with that.
And then they say, please continue to shine in your future endeavors. We are excited for you and continue to keep you in our thoughts and prayers.
Those prayers are political. Wait, those are prayers that only are offered in the absence of Republican voices. Those prayers are toxically political. See, it works both ways if you taught your kids critical thinking, which clearly Wisconsin Lutheran College didn't bother to do.
Well, back at the College Fix, we have a professor who claims now that the American dream, probably something, maybe Mike Pence would have talked about at WLC. He would have talked about the American dream and how you can all attain it. Well, no, you can't, because it's damaging to black people. The American dream is often described as striving to attain success through hard work and dedication amid vast opportunities. But we don't teach that to our kids anymore. That anyone can succeed in this country, because they can. If all they have to do, work hard. But one professor is saying she believes that this idea is actually harmful to black Americans. San Francisco State University assistant professor of management. Veronica Caridad Rebello was asked during a virtual panel in August. It focused on anti-racism, about what behaviors and patterns can perpetuate rather than counteract anti-black racism. And apparently, her response included that the model minority myth obscures the realities of racism. Model minority mythology reinforces other damaging ideologies that are predominant in our society, such as the American dream, that success is attainable through effort in following the rules regardless of one's identity or experiences.
Right, and so model minority mythology is the idea that people of color can actually make it. It's a myth. You're being told that all those, and this is the thing that gets me, all those successful minorities in this country never give credit. Oftentimes, the newly politicized ones never give credit for the country. It's not. So LeBron James, big mouth LeBron, who became the billionaire, right, had nothing to do with this country. No siree. No siree, Bob. Nothing to do with it.
Michelle Obama,
none of this had anything to do with her country, right? Not a lick. Barack Obama, not a lick. Kamala Harris, nothing to do with my successes. And Hispanic leaders, too, apparently, right? There's nothing to do with it. So the idea that, on the one hand, to suggest America is a land of opportunity, to suggest there is something like the American dream is racist, and it's used as racist propaganda to hold people to a false standard. Meanwhile, minorities who have succeeded use that power now to condemn the country that gave. They had nothing to do. We succeeded on our own. Well, if you did it without the country. Why can't the other minorities? And of course, these kinds of inconsistencies are never asked by the press. They're never challenged by the professors like this idiot who make these statements. They're not. She's an assistant professor. She's a PhD holding assistant professor in a major university, right? And she didn't do it on her own, right? She did it on her own. She did it without her country, right? She's not one of those model myth Americans. Somehow, she found a way to survive outside the American system to garner that kind of an education. It had nothing to do with what we do here in America on a daily basis. Again, but not the professors, not the pundits, not the sports athletes with all their money. Not one of them is going to stop and look and say, hey, I could not have done this from outside. I had to do it from inside.
Well, it just reminds me of there's a lot of hip-hop artists, and in their songs, their lyrics,
oxymoron,
hip-hop,
cold heat.
Okay, in their songs, they actually say how, I did everything on my own. A lot of athletes do this too. Like, I had it so hard growing up. Everything was on my own. Nothing, not a single thing helped me to get to where I am making my millions or sitting here making my songs that are awful. But anyway, Rebello says that we know that our society is not actually a meritocracy.
How do we know that?
We know because
I've got darker skin than you, and that gives me an entree into things you can't know.
Yes, white supremacy and inequality are cemented into the foundations of all.
Cement is inflexible. So if it's cemented, there's no way that Rebella herself could have succeeded.
Ever.
She would have been buried in the cement.
That's a very good point. Into the foundations of all our major institutions of policy.
In fact, Rebello's been a student all her life. She went from elementary school, which was free, to middle school, which was free, to high school, which was free, to college, which was free, on to get a master's degree most likely, and a PhD. She did all of that, but from her cement casing.
That's impressive.
Now, that's an impressive thing. Cemented into the foundation of racism, LeBron James somehow found a way to dribble in cement. He's still doing it. He's still doing it with cement blocks. Imagine what a great athlete LeBron could be if the cement blocks around his shoes were finally removed. Think how much higher he would soar. Think how much better he would dominate the game if you just took the cement off his feet, right? All the Snoop Dogs of the world, right? Who actually killed a man once and paid no price for it. Snoop Dogg. How much snoopier would his dog be? How much sweet tastier would his big fat blunt be as he toked up after the USC game? If only you could remove those cement shoes, the cement bodysuit that encases him in foundational racism, which cannot be argued against.
It's time for some real education. The most unforgettable and unique site in downtown Kansas City, Missouri is the giant bookshelf facade that covers the front of the public library's parking garage. It's the world's biggest bookshelf. It's made up of 22 different book titles. The garage was actually built around 2004 to accommodate the growing number of vehicles in the downtown area. The Kansas City community was asked to provide ways to beautify the front of the garage because, let's be honest, garages tend to be kind of ugly. And the idea of a giant bookshelf was born. The general public submitted their favorite book titles. Then the final selections were made by the Kansas City Public Library Board of Trustees. Each book is 25 feet tall and 9 feet wide, and they're made of signboard mylar. The bookshelf actually runs along the south wall of the library's parking garage on 10th Street.
How is this not racist and bigoted? It's a beautiful image, and I usually try to keep politics out of our instant classic, but it does beg a question. What books do we have from Native American culture for 1,000 years? What books do we have from African culture for 1,000 years? In fact, books were a process of encountering something else, right? But you could make an argument that this is something that has to be protested. Although the librarians did a good job making sure that they were very diverse in the books they chose. And I'm going to go through them here. Katie, I want your comment. So Kansas City Stories, volumes 1 and 2. I guess that's a book about Kansas City. That makes sense.
We'll give it.
Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. Strikes me as a high school book.
Yep.
A Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. A completely debunked argument, a faux environmentalist argument that resulted in the death of 40, 50 million brown and black-skinned people.
Ooh.
The DDT hoax. That's up there. Oh, Pioneers by Willa Cather. I guess that's because you need some more females. You got to have your Hispanic representation, right? 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, which is a great book. Zora Neale Hurston, right? Their eyes were watching God. Fahrenheit 451.
I hope no one's going to burn that one.
Another high school book. Yep. Plato's Republic, which actually wanders into fascism. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. The Tao Te Ching. The collected poems of Langston Hughes and other African-American authors are way, statistically, not a bad thing, but they're statistically way overrepresented on this list based on percentages in the country. Black Elk Speaks. We had to give a nod to Native American culture, even though it's not really a Native American book. Black Elk Speaks by Black Elk, as told by John D. Neihart. The Invisible Man, Ralph Ellison, which is a great book. To Kill a Mockingbird, of course. How many of these books? Are you sensing a racial theme?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Up and down.
When you go down.
The Journals of the Expedition of Lewis and Clark. Wow. I'm not sure if they were making their choices today that would stay. Undaunted Courage, Meriwether Lewis, Thomas Jefferson, and The Opening of the American West by Stephen Ambrose. The Lord of the Rings.
Oh, they brought up.
They did.
In here,
A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens.
Another
By no means his best book. Charlotte's Web, E.B. White. Of all the Shakespeare plays, Romeo and Juliet.
Ooh, someone's better.
Truman by David McCullough. Also, there's a whole accounting for children's books. Give us some of your thoughts on the titles here.
It is quite interesting that, because I'm a David McCullough fan, because he wrote John Adams, so I'm a little like, why, if we're going to put Truman in there. But there's some good ones that you would expect, and there's some ones I've actually never heard of, but I guess it was in 2004, right, is when they built it.
So
and they sought people's opinions. It's Kansas City. There's
wokeness
quite
was just beginning.
Yeah, so, and then it went to the board. So it makes me wonder what they, like, the actual top choices were and how many the board changed. And two, if we did this today, 16 years later, how many of these books would have to go, or
I would say at least I bet half of them would go if we had to do it again.
But
today.
there's some top titles in there. Of course, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, no, and that was
but
right.
It's Kansas City.
Think about what was happening in Hollywood in 2004.
Oh yeah, good point.
The Lord of the Rings. I'll bet you if they did it today, it wouldn't be part of this. Because in 2004, you were right smack dab in the middle of the trilogy, Peter Jackson's trilogy.
That's true.
And some of this just smacks of pandering too, right?
Oh, of course.
So you've got some of these books on here are just completely chosen. But, there's also more. There's also a fair amount, besides those book spines, there's also a fair amount of children's books, many of which you've probably read as a child. Goodnight Moon by Margaret Wise Brown. Did you read that one?
Oh, it's for little kids. Goodnight
Never
Moon.
saw it.
Oh,
Harold
I'll read
and the
it to you
Purple
someday.
Crayon, I remember that. Winnie the Pooh. Green Eggs and Ham.
Of course.
Actually, a cultural critic has now deemed that Winnie the Pooh is racist.
Of course.
Green Eggs and Ham, with Dr. Seuss. What a Wonderful World by George David Weiss. Little House on the Prairie, The Stolen Prairie from Native Americans, Laura Ingalls Wilder, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by Frank Baum, and M.C. Higgins the Great by Virginia Hamilton. So as far as monuments go, though, this is a literate one, so we like it.
All right, as always, you can follow us on Facebook and Parler. If you have any questions for us, please visit freedomproject.com/askduke and send those questions our way. Now we're going to wrap things up with the fun fact of the day. Kansas City has more barbecue restaurants per capita than any other U.S. city, and more fountains, at more than 200 plus fountains, than any city in the whole wide world except for Rome. So you have books, go visit books, go eat some barbecue, and then go sit down by a fountain and kind of just enjoy.
Are you talking about Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City, Missouri?
Missouri.
Kansas City, Missouri? Mm-hmm. Okay. Get with it, Kansas City, Kansas. You're lagging behind. That's going to do it for us this show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, barbecue, my friends.